Hey guys, welcome to another video, and in this video we'll try to explore the data raptors. Not all the data raptors, but particularly the load data raptor, because if you remember our last video where we created the OmniScript, so in this video we will try to save the data of that OmniScript to the Salesforce objects. Okay, so let's get started. Before going to load DataRaptor, let's quickly revise what type of data raptors Salesforce provides us. So if you go to OmniStudio DataRaptors and you click on new, you will basically get 4 types of data raptors. And quickly I will tell about them. The extract data raptor is, let's say if you want to get data from multiple objects, you want to get the data from account, contact, opportunities, all 3 in one go, then you can use extract data raptor. If you want to get data from single object, then you can use turbo extractor. And if you want to save the data or you want to update the data in Salesforce, then you can use the load data raptor. And if you want to change the JSON from one format to another, or if you want to create a PDF, then you can use the transform data raptor. If you remember, in our last video we created the OmniScript, right? So as we need to save its data to Salesforce objects, we are going to use the load data raptors. Okay, so let's go with this. Choose load data raptor here. For the data raptor name, for now I will write data raptor underscore, let's call it create intake data. Okay. Now you can provide this batch size, how many records you want to proceed per batch, but this is not required for now because we do have just 3 to 4 records to create, right? Then we do have input type. So we do have multiple input types available for the data raptors, but for this particular one we will be using JSON because OmniScripts, as we saw in the last video, OmniScripts created JSON output data, whatever we filled in the fields, right? So we'll be using the JSON here. Output type we do have only one, that is S object, and then required permissions. If you want to give the permissions to specific custom permissions, then you can provide the comma separated custom permissions here, and if you want to give any descriptions, you can use it. Now let's go ahead and click on save button. Now this data raptor is created. Let's quickly see the structure of this data raptor. Right, so first we do have the objects where we need to tell which objects we are going to create. We will be creating these objects, or we will be creating these records in few moments. Then we do have the formulas. So maybe before sending the data to Salesforce, you want to make some changes, right, to the fields, or you want to manipulate, you want to change some data in the JSON which OmniScript sent to us, right? Then you can use formulas. The field mappings, right, means which field of JSON will be mapped to which field of Salesforce object, it will be defined here. Then we have the options. In options we do have these particular 4 options. The ignore errors. If we are creating multiple records and we are getting error on one particular record, so do we want to ignore that error and we want to go ahead with other 3 records, then we can select this. Rollback on error, if you want to roll back if there is any error, if you want to roll back to the previous state, then we can use this. Use assignment rules. So particularly on lead and cases, you do have assignment rules, right? So do you want to fire those assignment rules? If yes, then you can use this. Preview. So in the preview tab, we can check whatever the data we are sending to Salesforce, is it really getting saved? Whatever the queries are firing, you can check it under the debug logs. And whatever the result it is returning us, means as object in this case, we can check this here. Okay, now let's see the the data model which I created, and this is a simple example of our OmniScript, and my data model might not be that optimized, but just to show you how can we create different type of data, I created this type of data model. So let me quickly go to our intake form. So here what I'm going to do is, with this personal information I will be creating a contact. Okay, so basically I do have a contact, and all these fields which are required in our OmniScript, I created all these fields under contact object. Now these educational details will be going to the education object, then the documents, the certifications will be going to the certificate objects, and the documents will be going to the application. Let me talk about the application also. So when somebody will fill this form, right, we will be creating one more object which is called job application. So this job application just has two fields. One is the name of job application, and it is an auto number, and then the second is the stage, which is particularly, let's say tomorrow HR decided if this job application is selected or rejected, right, then we can use the stage. Then we created a junction object between job application and contact, right. It was not required at all, but I created this junction object just to show you how we can insert the data into junction object. Okay, hope that makes sense. Then the acknowledgement. For the acknowledgement, I created a checkbox on contact itself, and when we will be going to the last step, we will be updating the contact, and we will be checking this acknowledge checkbox. Okay, hopefully this is clear. Now what our next step is, let's go ahead, fill all this data, and let's see what JSON does this OmniScript produces. Okay, so let's start with first name, and I will say John, and last name should be Sparrow. Okay. Then personal email can be john@sparrow.com. Okay. Then it is male or female. Expected CTC is, let's say, 100K. Then preferred location is maybe, let's say, Mumbai and Hyderabad. Then let's go to next, and here enter some data. So degree name is, let's say, he do have a degree of MBA which he did from IIT Delhi, and the passing year was, let's say, 1980. Then he also holds a degree in BTech which he did from IIT Mumbai, and it was in 1975. Okay. Then let's go ahead and add some information for the certification. Yes, I do have, let's say, Salesforce developer certificate, and the expiry date is 30th of this month. And then I'll also have Salesforce architect certificate, and expiry date for this is also 30th of this month. Let's go ahead and let's skip the documents for now, and let's see the acknowledgement. That's it. Right, now let's see this JSON. Right, so whatever is, so if you remember, this personal information, then the educational information, then certification and acknowledge, right, these were the API names for my steps. If I expand the personal information, I will see whatever I filled on this step: gender, first name, last name, email, expected CTC and location, right, and all these keys are coming from the name field, name of the input field, right. Same for education information. Now if you see under education information, it is creating an array, right, because there were multiple education or the degrees we added, right. And the same for certifications, it is creating the arrays because we added 2 certificates, right. If it goes to acknowledge, it is just having a single variable or single key, which is acknowledgement, and this is 2, right. So this is, hopefully this is clear. Now let's go ahead and let's do something in the DataRaptor. Okay, now one thing I will tell you is, whenever you drop any DataRaptor into the OmniScript, it basically passes this whole JSON to the DataRaptor. Okay, we do have a way with which we can pass only one particular node. So for example, we do not want to pass this whole JSON to the DataRaptor. We just want to pass the personal information, or we just want to pass the education information, right. We do have that way also, and we will be discussing it in few moments. Now let's go to DataRaptor. In the DataRaptor, first step is we need to tell which object records we want to create, right? So let's quickly see this again. So we want to create one job application, we want to create one contact, we want to create education, certificate, and this junction object, right? Now what we will be creating first of all, to create this junction object we need a contact and job application, right? And to create education and certificate we need a contact, right? So we can either create the job application and contact first of all, and then we can create all the child objects, right? So I will start with job application. So click on add object. Here we need to specify which object I want to create, right? So for example, it's showing me the API name of all the objects, right? So I will tell I want to create a job application, right? I selected there. Now I will be mapping all the fields in the fields tab, but right now I want to create contact next. So I will add one more object and I will add contact here. Okay. Now next what I want to create, I want to create this junction object, application contact, right? So what I will do is I will add one more object and it's called application contact, right? Now let's see this relationship. This is a junction object, right? Means this has two master details on contact and job application, right? So if you want to specify the relation between the objects, we need to add the link between them, right? And that we can do by clicking this add link button. So once I click on this add link, you need to tell which field of this object, oops, sorry, it should be application contact. Okay. Now let me delete and create it again. Sometimes Salesforce gets some issues, right? So now we need to tell which field of this application contact will be related to which field of the parent object, right? So we know, so for that what I did is I created two fields. One is called contact, which is a master detail to contact, and job application, which is a master detail to job application, right? Now we know here, the candidate field of job application will be related to the ID of the contact, right? It's very simple. So what I will do is, okay, it will show you all the objects which we already added here, right? So it is showing me job application and contact. So I will select contact, and which field of contact I will select ID, right? The same thing, we do have a relation with job application also. So same, we will add one more link, and here we will tell that job application field of application contact is related with ID field of job application object, right? So I did, that's it, simple. I just created a junction record here, okay? It was so simple. Now what's my next step? I want to create the education and the certificate objects or the records, right? So I will add one more object and I will add certificate, right? And the last is I need to add education, right? That's it. So on the first tab, on the objects tab, basically we need to tell which object records we are going to create. What will be the data which will be going inside those records? We are not specifying that in the object tab, right? We will be specifying that inside the fields tab, okay? So hopefully this is clear. Now let's start with the field mappings, okay? So the first object that we need to map is job application, right? And as we know, we only have two fields on job application. One is the job application name, which should be a auto number, but by mistake looks like I created it as a text. And then we do have stage, and the values for stage are draft, submitted, rejected, or accepted, right? So what I will do is I will create a mapping. So for that, what you need to do is when you goes under fields, basically you will see all the 5 objects which you added here, okay? So here I will go to job application and I will click on this plus button to add a new mapping. Okay, so here we have few fields. The first field is input JSON path, means the path of the key in the JSON, right? So in this case of OmniScript, so for example, let's say if you want to map the gender, then the path will be personal information : gender. Okay, then domain object field means the field in the object, means this job application against which you want to map this value. Then we have the output data type. So these two values should be compatible, right? I mean, we cannot have this as number and this as string, right? So I mean, if you have that case, then you can use output data type to make them compatible. Then we have the default value. So if you want to provide the default value to the field, then you can use this. We have few other options. The is disabled option, right? So let's say you created this mapping, but sometimes later you realize you do not want it right now, but you might need it later. So instead of deleting this mapping, you can disable it. Okay, so it will not be saved to the record. Then we have the upsert key. Is this field upsert key, right? Basically, sometimes for the IDs we can use this upsert key, that if you find this ID in existing record, then update it, otherwise create a new record, right? Then we have is required for upsert. This is if you want to make this field as required, I mean, if the value in the JSON is blank for this, then if you want to throw an error, then you can use this. And if you think this field is a lookup, then you can use this as lookup. Okay, so for now I will map it for stays. Okay, so I will say in the job application, so I want to map it against stays. Okay, so one thing that I will like to do is when you I will put my DataRaptor somewhere between this certification and documents, right? So that my all records are created before I goes to documents, so that I can upload the documents to the application, right? Now, what I will say is, okay, when I create this application, it should be in the draft status, right? It is not yet submitted. But when the acknowledgement is given by the user or by the candidate, then it should goes to the submitted status, right? That's what I want. So what I will do here is, when I am creating this record, I will set the stage value to draft. Now, if you see, we do not have any stage field here in this JSON, right? Then how can we do this? What will be the value for input JSON path, right? So we do have two things that we can do here. First is we can use the formula, right? As I told you, we can manipulate the input JSON using the formulas, right? So for that, what we need to do is we need to go to formulas and we need to add a formula. When we add a formula, we need to tell the formula result path, means inside this JSON where this key will be created, right? So let's say I want to create this key on the root level, maybe after the user ID, and it should be called, let's say, stays. Okay, so simply what this will do is it will create one key after user ID, and its value will be, let's say, I am hard coding it to draft right now. Okay, so it will be draft. Okay. Let's say if you want to create this key inside personal information, then what you can do is, instead of stays, you need to write here personal information, okay, or whatever the name of this key. Okay, right now it is personal information. Hopefully this is clear, right? We can create so many types of formulas, and I will create a separate video on that, but for now I am just showing you how can we create the formulas. Okay, this is one way to create to add a new key inside this JSON. If we do not want to go through this, right, then what we can do, then we have something called set values. Okay, so if you go to builds and you goes to action, you will find one action called set values. What this set values do basically is it sets a new value, or it creates a new key inside this JSON. Okay, so you do not need to write anything in the in the input fields to create that key. What you can do is you can simply drag and drop these set values, right? And I will drop it here before this first step. Okay, so let's say what I will say it stays. Okay, now in a single set value you can create multiple keys in the JSON, right? How can I do that is I will click on this add new element value, and I will say it stays, and it is, let's say, draft. Okay, so basically I created one more key in the JSON. Let's preview it. You will find out how we are doing it. Okay, so you can see if you see this JSON, you will find out this stage is created inside this JSON, right? If you want to create multiple, so for example, let's say tomorrow I have a status field there, and I create this, let's say status is something, it's a dummy value for now, right? Status is accepted. So, and if you will preview it, you will see one more key is created inside this JSON, right? So basically either we can create these set values here, or we can create a formula here. One more use case of the set values can be we can add some formulas. So for example, right now if you preview this and you add the first name and last name, right? So something, you will find that those values in the JSON, right? Now let's say you want one more key, and it will be concatenation of first name and last name. So let's call it full name, right? So if you want a key for full name, how can you do this? And you want to pass it to the DataRaptor along with this JSON, right? So for that, what you can do is you can add one more set value here. So okay, so I will add one more set value here. And here what I will do is I will create element name, and which will be, let's say, full name, right? Now you can use the expressions means the formulas you can use, right? So I will use the expression, and I will say, okay, this should be percentage first name plus percentage, that's the bug with OmniScript last name. Then either you can click on this checkbox, or you can press equal to sign here. As soon as you will press equal to sign, it will automatically check this checkbox. So what I want here is percentage first name plus percentage last name. Okay, now from where this first name and last name is coming is basically these are the name of this first name and last name fields. Okay, so I will preview it, and let's see. So let's say I will call it John, and last name is XYZ. So as soon as you will click on next, the set value will execute, and it will create a new element in the JSON, which is full name, and you can see this concatenated zone and XYZ, right? So these are a few use cases of set values. Basically, if you want to create a variable, or if you want to create a key inside this JSON, or you call it element, right, then you can use it. Now let's go to our DataRaptor again. So on the fields, okay. So what I want here is now I do have this stage, right? So I will use from this input JSON. So I will call it stage. Okay. Now one thing you need to do is you need to type the whole path here from the input JSON, right? But let's say you do not want that. So what you can do in that scenario is basically let's go and generate a full JSON here. So let's say MBA 980. Then let's add one more, BTech and it is 1975. Then let's go to next and let's add admin, which is expiring on 30th, and then developer, which is also expiring on 30th. Go to next, right? So what you can do is just copy this whole JSON. Okay, so you can copy by clicking on this copy icon. Okay, then you can paste it inside this input JSON. Okay, so once you do this, what will happen is it will auto populate all these elements or all these values, right? So now you can, instead of typing it, you can select from here, right? So I know it was stage, so let's search for stage, or you can start typing so that it will give you the suggestions from the same JSON. Okay, so it will be stage. Now I mapped, okay, the stage field of job application is mapped with stage element of this input JSON. Okay, hopefully that is fine. Now I do not have any other any other fields on the job application to map, so I will go to next, which is contact. So in the contact, what I will do is, again I will click on this new mapping, and now I want to map, let's say, first name, right? So it will automatically show you personal information colon first name, right? So select this and it should go to the first name of contact, right? So it will automatically show you from the object. Then this mapping is done. Now I want to map last name, so it should be last name, and it should be last name in the contact object, right? Then what I want is let's see what I do have. I have gender, right, which should be going to gender underscore C. Then I have I have preferred location, right? So this was okay. It looks like I did not enter that here, so let me go back and go previous and add these values so that I get it in the JSON, right? So let's say it is zone xyz.com, right? CTC is, let's say, 100k, and preferred location is Mumbai and Hyderabad, right? I will copy it again and I will paste it here. Right. Now it will show me the suggestion for location, and I will map it against preferred location in my contact object, right? Then we do have expected CTC, right? I will map it against same field, expected CTC, and what else? I think that's it, right? So you can see how quickly we are able to map all these fields, right? Then we do have application contact, and as we already created the links here, we do not need to configure the fields again in this Junction object. So you can see it is already configured against candidate underscore C and job application underscore C, right? And for the input JSON, we do not need any values, that's why it is empty, right? So now let's go to certificate, and in the certificate, I want to map let's say name, certificate name against the name field of certificate object, and I want to map expiry date against the expiry date of certification object, right? And the same for education, I want to map name which is degree name in the name field of education object, and passing year against the same passing year, and I think I had institution name, right? And it should be mapped with the institute. That's it. I have complete. So what I did till now is I created an object, not one object. I created all the objects. I mapped their fields. I created a formula which I'm not using right now, but it can be used, right, if needed. Then we went through what these options are, and the last is preview, right? So in the preview, let's give the same input as this input for the preview and click on execute, right? As soon as you will click on this execute, you can see all these records are created, right? And okay, here you see we have one error, which is required fields are missing, right? So one thing that we forgot to do is we created this certificate and education object, but we did not link it with the contact, right? That's what we need to do, because contact is their parent if we go to this data model, right? So what we'll do is we will we will map them against contact. Okay? So it should be contact and ID. Same for education, we will map it against we have a field called candidate and it should be contact. Okay, now it should be good. So let's go back to the preview and try it again. Okay. So now you see what did we create is we created one job application, then we created a contact, we created a application contact and two certificates, right? And we still have one error, which is attempted to dereference a null object, right? And it came while creating the education record, because that is the only record I'm not seeing here, right? So let's see what happened to the education. Oh, we do not add the ID here. We did not add the ID here. Okay, here you go. Now it should be fine. So let's go back and preview it once more. Here you go. No error now, right? So it created all the records which we were trying, right? So now let's go to this job application and let's check few of the values, right? So we can see the stage is draft. If we see here, it created a junction record for application contact. If we go inside that, it created a contact record which is on XYZ, right? It created two education records and two certificate records, right? So you see how simple it was, right? We did not write even a single line of code, and whatever the data we needed, it is created, right? So this is done. We have created the DataRaptor. Now let's go and let's integrate this DataRaptor with the OmniScript, right? So for that, what we'll do is we'll go to this OmniScript again, right? And we will drop a DataRaptor. So for that, you can go to build and you can go to actions, right? So you will find out extract action, turbo action, transfer action, and for the load DataRaptor, you will find out the post action, right? Now you need to drop this DataRaptor where you want to create your records, right? So what I will do is I will drop this DataRaptor after certification. Okay. So let's see few of the properties. Here we have the name and the label of this DataRaptor. So I will call it, let's see, save records, and it can also be save records, right? Then which DataRaptor we are calling, right? So we will give the name of our DataRaptor which we created. So it will be dr underscore create intake date. It should be data, but I made it date. Okay. So now if you want to display some messages after this DataRaptor is completed, I mean you want to display any failure, so what happens is if this DataRaptor fails anyhow, you will see a modal that there is some error, and you will have some buttons there, and those button labels can be configured here. I will not go to the details here, but in some other video we'll try to cover that. Okay, that's it. Nothing you need to do, right? You do not need to pass this JSON to this DataRaptor. Do not worry about that. The OmniScript will take care of it. So what OmniScript will do is it will pass the whole JSON, the complete JSON, to the DataRaptor. Okay, that's it. Now let's go and let's preview it. Okay, so let's call it preview and from OmniScript. Okay, so preview at OmniScript.com. Then let's say we have this CTC, preferred location is Delhi. Then I will add some degrees. So I will add only 1 degree for now. Okay. Then I will add 1 certificate. Okay. Then okay, here this DataRaptor executed, right? So as soon as we click on the next button after certificate, this DataRaptor executed because we dropped the DataRaptor between certification and documents, right? And if you see here in the action debugger, it will also show you, right? So save records was the label of DataRaptor which we dropped, right? Inside this you can see what is the request data that our OmniScript sent, right? So you can see whatever the JSON we had, it sent everything to the DataRaptor, right? Then you can see what is the response that DataRaptor provided back to the OmniScript, right? So here you will find out the IDs of all the records. See, you will find out the ID of the education record, the certificate record, the application contact record, the contact record, and the job application record, right? And if you go to the data JSON, you will see few more elements are created here, right? So basically this is DR stands for DataRaptor, right? And then it append ID underscore the object name, right? So this is the ID of education record, this is the ID of certification record, this is the ID of application contact record which got created by the DataRaptor, right? So I mean, it's very simple. You do not need to pass the JSON. OmniScript will do it automatically. You do not need to put that the result from the DataRaptor inside this JSON, right? OmniScript will do it automatically. Now you have all these variables or all these elements available and you can use them anywhere, right? Now where we will be using them is on the file uploads, right? So we know when we will be uploading the files, we will be uploading them against this application record, right? dr id underscore job application underscore c, right? We will be uploading them there. So what we will do here is, let's copy the name of okay, somehow I cannot copy this, so what I will do for now is I will inspect this and I will copy this variable name from here. Now I will go back and I will go to documents, and as I told you in the previous video, we can put the parent ID on this file uploads, right? So what I will do is, and if you are using any merge field, then it should be inside the percentage, okay? I will give the property name or the element name here, okay? So now what will happen is, these documents will be uploaded against this record, okay? And here again same I will do, right? Now let's go ahead and preview this. So one thing I told you is, we cannot preview the uploads in the preview of OmniScript. If you want to test that, then we need to drop this OmniScript into some page, and there only we can upload the real document. And before doing this, I will do one more step. So the next step is acknowledge, right? So once user give the acknowledge, I want to save this acknowledge to the contact record, right? So I created one field on the contact which is called acknowledgement, right? So once user give the acknowledgement, then I will check this checkbox. So for now, for that, what I will do is, now I want to update this contact record, right? So what I will do is, I am not going to use this same DataRaptor because it creates or it updates multiple records, right? I will create one more simple DataRaptor. So for that, let's go back to the DataRaptor and create one more, and let's call it dr underscore acknowledgement underscore contact, okay? It will be again load because it will be changing the data, right? And it will accept the JSON and it will return the S object, right? Now what I want here is, what I will be changing is the contact object, right? So I will add the contact object here, okay? On the fields, what I will do is, okay, so let's go back to the JSON here which we had here, right? So if you see, we do have this acknowledge available, right? So what we can do is, we can copy this whole here, and then we can map acknowledge against the acknowledgement underscore c field or on the contact, right? One more thing I want is the ID, right? Because I need the ID of contact on which I will be updating this acknowledge, right? So for that, what I need is, let's go back to our OmniScript, okay? And from here, let's preview it. And so for now, I will go ahead quickly and okay. So I also need this. I need this drid underscore contact, right? Go to the data raptor again, and instead of copying it from there, I can simply edit here dr underscore contact ID, right? And it will be something dr. Oh, it's my bad. Let me copy from here. And let me copy this value also for now. Okay. Here we go. Right now, I think I did it on the wrong data raptor. It should be on this. Okay. So now what I want is, I will add one more mapping here, and this will be mapping of drid underscore contact with the ID field on contact, right? And now this should be a upsert key, right? If you find this ID, then update that contact, otherwise create that contact, right? Simple. Now let's go and preview this once. So I will copy the same JSON here, and I will click on execute button. Okay. Now you can, if you go to this contact, you will see this contact is updated. Something happened, okay, because the acknowledgement was false, that's why. So let me make it true and let me execute it once more. Okay, so this acknowledgement is updated, right? Simple. Now let's go and drop this this data raptor after acknowledgement. So I will get one more post data raptor. I will drop it here, and it should be, let's say, save. Okay, and the same can be the name, and it should be dr underscore acknowledgement underscore contact. Okay, simple. That's it. Now let's activate this and let's see it in the community. Okay. So meanwhile this is activating, I will open the activity. I will open the community. This is done. So let it load. Okay, so let's give it a name of, let's say, John @price.com. Then we have 100k. All three are his preferred location, and now let's add the degree. Okay, so now we can upload the file. So I will click on this. I do have only my resume, so that I will attach here, and the same for this degree certificate. I will attach it. Okay. And I will click on next button. Here I will give my acknowledgement, and I will click on next. That's it. My application is submitted. Now let's go and check it, if I did get all the data or not, right? So for that I created one application, and it's called development. So I will go to job application, and I will So this is the latest application. If I go inside this, right, so you can see the stage is draft. Then let's go and check the, oh yeah, so see these two files are attached, right? These two resumes are attached here. Then let's go to the application contact. You can see the contact called June price is created, right? Then we do have the expected CTC, we have the name, we have the preferred location, but somehow we do not have all these values, right? We will try to find out what happened, but other things are coming. Then we do have a degree, MBA, we have a certificate, right? If we go inside this degree, we do have, the institute name is IIT Delhi and the passing year is 1980, right? So most of our data is getting saved. Maybe we missed something, for few of the fields, that's why they are not getting saved, right? So hopefully this whole Load DataRaptor is clear to you. Why do we use it? How do we create the objects, and how do we map the fields? And of course, how do we integrate the data raptors with the OmniScript, right? So that's it for this video. If you have any question, please drop me the comments and I will try to reply them as soon as possible. Thank you so much.